Hi, everyone. My name is Carlos Mark Vera, and I am the co-founder of Pay Our Interns, a nonprofit focused on creating more paid internships across the country. I'm really excited today because we're unveiling a new initiative that we've partnered with Workplace Fairness. For those that don't know, Workplace Fairness is an innovative nonprofit that's been around that really focuses on ensuring that workers have the labor protections and laws, to keep them safe and that they can do their job well. So we've teamed up. Before I talk more about the partnership, I want to introduce Edgar. Edgar is the executive director at Workplace Fairness, and I'll let him talk a bit more about himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Edgar Ndjatou, and I'm Workplace Franchise Executive Director. And I have been in this role for about 2 years now. Before that, I practiced employment law in the DC area, representing mostly plaintiffs in all types of employment claims. And now my role as Executive Director, I help oversee the maintenance of our new rights content. That is the way we help workers understand their rights around the country and also help support our sister organizations in amplifying their message when it comes to representing workers and advocating for them.
Awesome. On Thursday, July 29th, it's National Intern Day, which is like a big day. And it's a day that, some employers usually honor their interns with like a pizza party. We advocate that it should be also with payment and protections. But Edgar, if you can tell us a little bit more, why do you think it's so important to have workplace fairness?
I believe it's super important because we spend a lot of our waking hours working. Many people wake up every day to go to work to provide for their families or for themselves. And part of what is important in this country and around the world is ensuring that you go to a place where you feel welcomed, you feel protected, you feel that your labor and your work is rewarded. And that's why workplace fairness is important, because people need to know that that they have a fair shake when it comes to advancement. That if they're working particularly in a job that is dangerous, that there are things to protect them so they can go back to their families and communities that care about them, and that everyone gets paid equitably, for the work they're doing.
For a little bit more context, for those that don't know, Pay Our Interns has been doing this work now for 5 years. We've gotten Congress to pay their interns, cities, nonprofits, companies. But one thing that we've really been thinking a lot in the past 2 years is it's not enough to get paid if you're in a workplace that is abusive, that you feel harassed, or you don't feel like you have rights. So really, I think for the intern experience, it's a 2-for-1. I think it's compensation, but also protections and a fair workplace. So that is why, we're partnering up with Workplace Fairness, where we've kind of come up with kind of a guide for interns that really help them navigate and provide resources for current interns and then those that are starting to apply for the fall internship. Can you talk a little bit more about that guide and resource?
Yeah, so I'm excited to announce that we partner with parent interns to take our Know Your Rights content and essentially cultivate it to helping ensure that parent interns can also represent their constituents, interns around the country. And so what we did is we essentially created some new customized Know Your Rights content that helps interns and youth workers understand their specific rights as they enter the workforce or enter internships. And so we cover many things such as the types of internships that you might encounter, youth minimum wage, how to find help if you find yourself in a serious situation at work, and how to protect yourself in general. So we're really excited about this initiative, and I think it's a way for us to start looking to help specific parts of the labor force around the country. And we thank our interns for giving us this opportunity.
What would you say are like the highlights of Know Your Rights resource guide?
I would say the highlights are that we spend a lot of time going through the different types of internships, whether it's an internship or an externship or a fellowship, and why it's important to understand what your what you're entering into, because that could affect your pay and your working conditions and what's expected of you and what you expect of your employer for the time you're with them. We also talk about the importance of understanding status as an employee, whether you're an employee or independent contractor, because that can affect, for example, the taxes you pay at the end of the year to the government. And also you might have been misclassified, without you knowing, and that affects you, after the fact. We also talk about the youth minimum wage. If you're below a certain age, you can be paid less than the minimum wage, and so it's important for people to know that going in, particularly if they're new to the workforce. And we'll also cover what happens if you find that you're being harassed or discriminated against at work. And unfortunately, depending on your status as an intern or as a youth worker, not all the laws might protect you, but there are still things you can do, within the workplace that will at least bring it to the attention of someone that can hopefully take care of it.
For those that, that don't know, people wonder, well, why is it so important to get paid, and how is that tied to rights? And the fact is, according to a lot of established, case laws, the courts have basically ruled that the litmus test to be considered an employee is payment. And we know this because there have been interns in the past 2 decades that have sued, their employers for sexual harassment, racial discrimination, disability discrimination. It's gone to court, and then the judge has thrown it out because they were unpaid. Because they're unpaid, they're not an employee, and thus actually really have no rights. And I think that is so pivotal for people to understand that, whether you agree interns should be paid or not, and obviously we feel a certain way, I think we can all agree that interns deserve protections, while they're working. And I think that's why we're really excited about this partnership, about Know Your Intern Rights. As people start looking for fall internships, do you have any final tips for them?
Yeah, I would say for final tips, make sure that you get in writing what is expected of you, and more importantly, what your status is as an intern, whether it's paid or unpaid or an externship or fellowship. You want to know that and have it all in writing, because, for example, if you're a paid intern and you're expected to work a certain amount of hours per week, if you go above that, you might be eligible for overtime pay. So these are things you want to know before you enter into your internship. Secondly, you want to know who your supervisor is and who is in your chain of supervisors. And more importantly, if something comes up while you're interning or working at your employer, who you can go to report if something is not going well. Whether it's someone harassing you or discriminating against you or making your experience with the employer not a good one. You want to know who that person or who those people are. Third, I would say that you want to make sure that you understand when you're getting paid. It's very common, particularly in some places where people are not paid on time, they're supposed to, and interns are definitely the lowest rung on the pole when it comes to that. So you want to know when you're getting paid and in what form you're getting paid, because that will be important to know, whether it's by check or direct deposit. Those are things you want to know. And lastly, I would say that you want to know, particularly this day and age, if you're supposed to be working in person or virtually. And if you're working virtually, what does that mean? When you expect it to be on call, in terms of core hours during the day, because right now a lot of places are opening up and having people come back into the office. Some are not, some are more hybrid. So you want to understand what is expected of you day to day in terms of whether you come to the office or working from home. And if you're expected to come to the office, when you're supposed to report to work.
These are really helpful tips. I'll add another one. As you're looking for, internships, really, to your point, also like, looking at the job listings. Some of them will have red flags. If you have an internship that has a really nice title, right? Like communications intern or, partnership intern, but the description is mostly like clerical, like you're stapling, you're making copies and keep in mind, obviously even some full-time jobs, you're going to be doing some of that things. But if that's all you're going to be doing, you really have to consider, do I want to potentially get into debt to do an internship where I'm just going to be, stapling things? So I think that's very important, especially during the job interview, asking, you know, your potential supervisor, like, what does that look like? And if it's, basically clerical and you bring that up, and I think if they respond hostile way, it's probably not the best place,
Right.
to be interning. Edgar, where can people find the Know Your Intern Rights resource?
Yeah, so you can visit www.workplacefurnish.org and go to Know Your Rights section, and we have a new intern rights tab right there. You can find this information, and it would also be on the Pay Our Interns website as well. So it'll be the same information, but also on the Pay Our Interns website.
Awesome. Are there any last thoughts you have before we wrap up?
No more last thoughts. Thank you so much again for the partnership. We look forward to working with you, and we're very excited for the other things we have in store to advocate for interns.
100%. We're so excited to do this. And reminder for folks, it's National Intern Day on July 29. We'll be doing a big push, particularly Department of Labor, on intern protections, and cannot emphasize that it's not enough getting paid as an intern if you're not in a safe workplace. It's great chatting with you. Hope you have a
Great chatting with you as well. Yep.
Bye.